Welcome back. Today we're going to create a to-do list with local storage. You can add as many items as you want, and even if you refresh, as I said, it has local storage, so we are able to see all our items right there. We can check of them, we can edit them, change it, we can delete one or delete all of them. Without further ado, I am NeoDev. Let's grow together and let's get started. Alright guys, I will leave this window for future reference, and then as you can see I have already all my files open. So icons are coming from boxicon.com. As usual, we have our CSS link, our website icon, and our JavaScript already there. So without further ado, let's just create our main tag instead of our body tag, a form with the ID of form with no action attribute. Then instead of that form, a paragraph tag with the class of alert. Then an h3 with the class of title. And the title is to-do list. Then a div with the class of control. Then inside of this, an input with the ID of entry. And I have here a placeholder. Then after that, I have a button with the class of BTN and class of submit -BTN and the text of submit. And of course, this should be a type as well of submit. After that, another button with a class of BTN and class of cancel -BTN, text of cancel, and just a type of button, just to specify this is just a button, and this is the submit one. Alright, after that we can jump into our CSS, but before I do that, I need to give it this cancel button a new tag, which is the-none. That will make sense in a second, and do not forget to hit the go live server in order for us to be able to see what's going on inside of our browser. Okay, now let's go jump into our CSS as I told you. Okay, Google Fonts, it's actually Poppins, it's coming from here. We have our root CSS selector that stands for all our variables that we're going to use during this little project, and then after that we can restart everything from scratch. I mean, we can use margin, padding, none, and bulk size and border box. This one right here. There you go. Now we'll target the body. I will give you a body background of light gray, the mean height 100 ph, overflow of hidden, and font family, of course, my Poppins. After that, I will check my main tag, which is my wrapper, a width of 90 width, some margin, max width, margin top a little bit, background, the color, text color, a little bit of box shadow, border radius, and the padding. Okay. By the way, don't worry about the code, you will be able to see it on the code pane. I will leave the link on the description below. And yeah, I want to focus on the CSS, that's the reason I'm just pasting everything. Now next, the alert. Alert right here is actually our paragraph tag, and of course you won't be able to see anything until I say something. So for testing purposes, Lawrence 7 tab, and that is our alert. So text transform uppercase, letter spacing, you know, some font styling right there. And then after that, we're going to jump into our JavaScript classes. Those classes are going to be triggered thanks to the JavaScript. So for instance, if my alert has this class, let me just go right here, paste it, remove the dot at the front, and there you go. That is our alert. Now if I change this to success, this will change as well. You see? Okay, moving on. We need to work with our title right here, this one right here. So just beneath that, we will target the title, which is our h3. Just going to paste it. You know, text align the term, a little bit of margin bottom. Then the div of the control with the class of control. I have display flex to be one next to each other and justify the contour center. Then my entry, which is my input right here, I'm going to style it as it says right here. So outline num, a little bit border. Then text color should be this text color, background as well as the background of the wrapper, which is the main, I believe. Then border radius, font size, padding, flex 1. And then the font family again, yes, Poppins. After that, I remember we set two of our buttons with the class of button BTN actually. So let's jump into it right away. So that BTN font family Poppins, and then font weight bold. Now for the submit and the cancel, both of them, they will have the same styles. We have outline none, border, background color, color text, some padding, flex basis, grow and shrink. So this is it. Yep. Then after that, I will of course set the hover effect for both of the buttons. So background color slightly gray, and then color dark gray, so you can see. After that, we can jump into our index.html now. So just outside of the form, just right here, and another list with the idea of to do -list, but with the class of list -container. That is our another list. And just for testing purposes, the list item, each list item should look like this. A list item with the class of list item, then a paragraph tag with the class of text, and then our 3 icons that are coming from the box icon website. Okay, right there. Okay, let's shrink this. This is just for testing purposes, so you will be able to see what's going on there. Now we can jump into our CSS now. Just beneath this, we'll say, okay, list container, which is our another list. Let's give it some margin. Now for each list item, we'll have a border button, a list style none to get rid of that bullets, display flex to be one element next to each other, then justify context between aligners and center and some padding among them. However, inside of that list item, we have a paragraph with a class of text. I will change the width of that with a value of 80%. There you go. Now for the icons itself, all of them have this bx class. So right away, let's jump into it. And in this case, it's going to be cursor pointer, a little bit of margin, a little bit space among the icons. Next, I will change the hover effect, the cover color. We have light gray, green, and red. They are coming from our variables at the beginning. You see, those variables we are using, and thanks to the bar function, parentheses, and then the value that we want to set to that specific icon when we hover it, of course. After that, I need to create a new button, which is ClearBtn. We will create a button with the class of btn again, and then class of clear-btn, but with the class of the none. And here we will say clear items for the text. We can go back. Now for the clear button, we will have the following properties. So clear button, border none, outline none, a little bit border radius, font size, a little bit of padding, cursor, and of course this is important, the color and the background color to give it this nice color right there. Determine the width, display block, a little bit of margin to put it at the middle, at the center of everything, and that should do it. And finally, we can use the class of the -none that stands for display none. So my element that has that class is this clear button and as well as the cancel. Now we can remove this class of alert success as well as the inner text of my alert paragraph with class of alert. So initially we have pretty much the same, you see. Okay, this is hard coded, no worry, let's just leave it there. And that's it for now for the CSS and the HTML. Alright, now JavaScript. First we need to apply DOM manipulation. We need the entry, which is the input, the form itself, and my another list. Why? Because with the form we can attach a listener, which is going to be submit, and a callback function that I'm going to call add item, because initially we need to add our first item when we click the submit button. So right away, function add item with the parameter of e, because we need to prevent prevent default, the default value of when submitted the form. You know, it was going to refresh the page, but in this case it won't, thanks to the e prevent default. Right. Next, I would love to store the value of my entry into a variable called val. So n3, which is the input, that value. That's the way I can store it right there. After this, I would like to apply like validation. I mean, I would like to say to the user, hey, you need to type something in order to submit that text. So here I will say if barrel exists, if we have something inside of my input, we can create our list items, and here we're going to pass the barrel, the val, the text. After that, I would love to clear my entry. In this case, I will say entry that the value should be equals back to null, or you can use empty string. That's up to you, but I rather to use null. Okay, after that we need to create, of course, my create list function. So function create list is accepting a parameter which is val. Then here I will say const li document that create element, and the element that I'm going to create is going to be the list item. After that, I will have to apply a class. I will use the property class name, and in this case all my list items, they have the class of list item naturally. So just going to grab it, paste it, that's it, semicolon, and then I will say li.inner HTML. What am I going to inject? Well, pretty much, which is whatever that is inside of my list item, in this case the paragraph and 3 icons. So right away, paste, let's tab, let's put it right here, semicolon. But here, instead of this hard-coded text, we're going to pass whatever the user put in that entry point. So wow. So far we have the list items. The next thing to do is to inject that list items inside of my unordered list. Therefore, unordered list append who my new list item. Okay, so at this point that should do it. Let's give it a whirl. Item number 1, submit, and there you go. Item number 2, and submit, and there you go. Now we need a way to tell the user what's going on, and that's where our P with class of alert comes into play. So again, the manipulation, I just call it alert P, and here after this, okay, it successfully created my list item. I would like to create a function that is called displayAlert, and this displayAlert function, it would accept 2 arguments. First, my message, and second, the class or the styles. But what happens if I click submit and I'm not typing anything? Well, that's just like a mistake, because I want to tell the user that he needs to type something in order to send some data. So displayAlert, please type something, and alert danger as the class, as we said before. Remember, right here, those classes are going to be injected inside of our paragraph tag with the class of alert. Then after that, we need to create that function, of course. So function, so displayAlert, first argument message, second is going to be styles. Now the alert P inner text should be equals to the message, of course, and then alert P class list, my bad, and then add who, the styles. Those am I going to add. So now if I click up submit, which should be the red message, but if I hit something or type something, click submit, and there you go. Now the problem is that our P alert right there is still there. We need to get rid of that. A way that we can do it is by using set timeout. So after a second and a half, we need to remove everything we did so far. So right here, copy and paste. Instead of message, this should be back to an empty string. Instead of add, this should be remove after a second and a half. So let's give it a whirl. After a second and a half, it's gone. Now item 1, after a second and a half, it's gone. Next, when I add a new item, I would like to show the clear items button like this. So in order to do that, first of all, we need to apply the manipulation. We need to clear our clear button, so right here. And next, I would love to give it a listener. So ClearBtn, that the listener is going to be click this time, and the function is going to be all clear items. But first of all, I need to show this button. So right here, when it's successfully added my first list item of another ones, I would love to say ClearBtn that class list that remove who, the class, the d-none, because that stands for display none. Remember the last class that we said, this one right here. I need to remove that from my clear button. So if I add a new one, we should see my clear items. Great. Now we need to work with the functionality. First of all, it's pretty straightforward. We need to clear all our unordered lists. So right away, and no params, I will have my unordered list inner HTML back to null, or you can use an empty string. That should do as well, but I'd rather to use null. Then I need to tell the user what's going on, you know. So here I'm going to say displayAlert. So my message is going to be all items were removed, and of course the class of red, you know, alert danger. And finally, after my items, all of them that were removed, I need to get rid of that button again. So basically, the opposite paste instead of remove is going to be add. So let's jump into it right now. Add a new item. There you go. Now if I hit clear items, there you go. Sorry guys, I made a mistake. I mean, the code works. I tried it right here on our final project instead of here. So, okay, submit. If I clear off the other items, and yeah, there you go. Okay, now our next step is to give to each icon a listener, because we need to be able to do or to trigger some actions when we click those icons. So right away we'll say icons, and then I will say li, which stands for, you know, my list item. So inside of this list item, I would like to target my first icon, which is this one. Then say add event listener, and it's going to be the click listener, and then my function I'm going to call it editItem. So pretty much the same idea for the following two icons. So to save us some time, initially I would love to show you that those functions are running just by saying console.log and edit, check, and delete. So if I make this window bigger, I need to get rid of this, just one. Then inspect the page, go within the console. Now item number 1, submit, and now I will be able to say edit, check, and delete. So my functions are working. All right, let's shrink this window and let me show you what do I want next. Well, when I click on the check icon, the edit icon goes away and the text right here goes with a line through style. So in order to do that, let me first introduce you. We're going to use this keyword. So console.log this, and you will realize that this is the icon itself. I mean, if I go here within the console and say check, you will realize that the this keyword stands for the icon itself. Now, what will happen if I say the following? Console.log this.parent element. If I can type, you will realize that this is the father, which is the icon. I mean, the father of this is going to be the, sorry, not the icon, but the list item. So if I go back here, add a new item, click check, and yes, it's the list item, which is the father with the class of list-item. Now, when I click check here, you will realize that it's toggling those classes. So right away, we can jump into it right here, and just beneath this, that stands for the icons, we will say, if my list item has the class of li checked, I would like to target the text and set the text decoration line through, as we are looking at the moment, as well as target my edit icon and set the visibility to hidden. So now this one is pretty straightforward. We can say this parent element, then class list toggle, because we're going to toggle it, and what? Well, the class that we just created, which is li checked. So paste it. Now let's give it a whirl this time. Check, and it's going to toggle that. Awesome. Now let me just get rid of this. Let me just comment that out. We don't need that anymore. All right. Let's start with the empty unordered list, and the next thing to do is to work with the delete item. Okay. We just learned that this parent element is the list item itself with the class of list-item. Please have that in mind, because we will follow the same ideas here. Because here we need to delete one when I click on my trash icon. So how can we do that? Well, basically we can say unordered list that remove who? The child. Who is the child that I'm going to remove? Well, this that stands for the icon itself. So if I have 2 items, of course it's not going to run because I have error right there. But I mean, if I have 2 items, if I click here on the trash can, it should be deleting this one and not this one, of course, because this means the icon itself. And who is the father of this trash? Well, this li. So it's going to remove that specific list item. I mean, if we go back, say this parent element is going to remove that. So again, let's give it a whirl with 2 items. And now let's just remove the first one. Great, it has been removed. Now we need to tell the user what's going on again. So we're going to use the displayAlert afterwards. So this is my message and this is the class. So again, if I hit item 1 and then click on the trash can, however, I'm still able to see these clear items BTN. So when I don't have any child inside of my unordered list, I would love to remove this button. So basically I need to say the following: if unordered list children that length is equal to 0, which stands for that it doesn't have any kids or child, sorry. Let's just target my clear button, class list, add this time because we need to remove it, what the hyphen none, that stands for display none. Again, if I click item number 1, now if I click the trash can, should be get rid of this item as well as the clear items button, just like that. You see? Now we need to work with the edit item. We will have many things to do here because if I click on the edit icon, you will see that many things happens. But first, I need to work with the showing my text inside of my entry point. So how can I do that exactly? Well, since this keyword, this keyword is the icon itself, let's look the structure. You will realize that just previously, just before that edit icon is located my paragraph tag with the class of text, which contains the text. So if I say the following counts as previous element sibling, you will realize that is the paragraph tag with the class of text. If I inspect, there you go, we have a paragraph tag with the class of text, of course. Now I need to show that inside of my input. So I will say entry that value should be equals to this dot previous element sibling that inner text. Now let's just give it a whirl this time. Item 1, if I click here, and there you go. Now the next thing to do is to show the edit and cancel button when we click the edit icon. Therefore, we need to apply the manipulation. We need to call the submit button and the cancel button itself. So submit button, cancel button, query selector, submit, and cancel BTN. So let's go back inside of our edit function, and we need to say submit BTN dot inner text should be equals back to edit. Also, we need to remove the initial class we set in for our cancel BTN. You know, cancel BTN class leave remove because we initially set that right here. We set it. So let's try it. Of course, submit 1. If we click on the edit icon, there you go. Now our next step is to get rid of all of the icons inside of our DOM. I mean, if I clicked in any of these edit icon, you will realize that all the icons are going to be vanished. See? Because in that way we are telling the user, okay, if you want to edit something, do it. Otherwise, just hit cancel and then you will get your icons back. So in order to do that, we just need to go inside of our edit right here. And just meeting that we need to say, so since all my icons are inside of our unordered list, we can say unordered list that query selector all, and they all have the class of that bx because it coming from the box icons website. Then I can loop through them with the for each. So each icon that we have so far, we can say I class list, and then we can add a new class that I'm going to call b-none. And this b-none will stand for visibility of hidden. So if we go back inside of our styles, at the very end of everything, above of this, we can just set it, be none and then visibility of hidden, that property. All right. After that, as you can see, if I click here, I am removing my clear items BTN, this one right here. So this is pretty straightforward. We need to say ClearBtn, sorry, BTN, and then class list, then add, of course, who the d-none. So after that, let's try it. Item 1, item 2, if I click on one of these edit icons, all are gone as well as my clear items button. Now we need to work with the cancel button or action. This is pretty straightforward. So right away we need to attach a listener to it. So at the very top right here, we'll say cancel button, advanced listener, click, and the callback function is going to be called set back to default. So at the very bottom of our code, so function set back to default with no params. Pretty much we need to undo everything that we did so far. So going to grab it from the editItem function, copy, paste it, remove this space, so entry that value should be back to null. So submit that init text should be submit now. Cancel remove, this should be add, you know, the opposite. Instead of add, this should be remove. Instead of add, this should be remove. Okay, having said that, let's try that again. If I click and cancel, and again and again. Awesome. Now the problem is, if I hit the delete button, you will see that it just created a new item for us. But why exactly? Well, because we just changed the text value of the button, but not the action that is attached to that button. So that's the reason that this piece of code is running. But how do we tell JavaScript that we want just to edit that text, that existing text? Well, with a new boolean value. I'm going to call it edit flag, initially set to false. Now, if I click the edit icon, I need to change that to true. So right here in my function editItem, I need to change that to true. Now, let's go back inside of the add item, and this conditional, this first conditional, I want it just for creating a new item only. Therefore, here I will say and negative edit flag. So initially this is false, but you know, false, negative, and now this is true, true, and this piece of code is only going to run for creating a new item only. Great. Now we need the otherwise. I mean, else if my value and my edit flag, both of them are true, I need to run my editing actions. But in the moment, I need that value, that text value, that paragraph tag with the text value, I need that element. How can we do that element global? Well, we need to create another variable for that. So at the very top, right here, I'm going to call it edit element. And this is just an HTML initially undefined, you know. Now, just beneath everything inside of the edit item function, we just need to say the following. Let b text, that stands for my paragraph tag with the class of text, should be equal to this previous element sibling. We already did that, right? Great. Now this is the element. Now in order to make it global, we just need to set my edit element equals to the p text, and that's the way that we can make an inner element to make it global, thanks to a global variable right here, because now I can have access to that variable inside of this if statement. The second conditional for my editing actions. Therefore, I will say the following. My edit element, which is my paragraph tag with class of text, I will say that inner text should be equals to the new value of the input. You know, because remember, val is entering that value, the value of the current value of my input. Now, after that, I need to tell the user, hey, something just happened. So I need to run my displayAlert function. First my message and then the class, which is success. And finally, I need to set everything back to default after running that, of course. But do not forget to set this back as the default, because they are now paragraph tag with the class of text, and then this is true when we hit until this point, you know. But we need to set that as a default, as a default. So set back to default, the very top, you know, everything back to normal again. All right, now let's just try it then now. So item number 1, submit. Item number 2, submit. And now what if I want to change this one to 23? If I hit edit, there we go. Now this one, if I hit another number, hit edit.
Boom, you looking for this?
Alright guys, so far so good. You have a completely to-do list app, but you need to add it, and we're going to add a local storage. Remember, local storage stores key value pairs, and it stores data string types. And I already talked about this in this video, and the code that we're going to run, we're going to follow the same idea as we did it there. So first, inside of the add item function, we'll create an ID with the new day constructor, going to use the getTime method to get a unique ID, but I need to change this to string type value. Then for my local storage, I will create a function called toLs, stands for to local storage, and going to pass the val and the ID. So beneath of everything, I will create my function toLs accepts the val and the ID. I will create an object. Thanks to EMMAScript 6, I can say the following: ID, comma, and the val. It's pretty much like saying ID, val, but this is just a short way, thanks to EMMAScript 6. Then I need to put everything, items that push, inside of an array. So object, I'm going to pass my object every time I'm creating a new item, and then I need to send that to my local storage. So set item, remember key value pairs. I'm going to use a variable called ls key, comma, and I need to send the items. But remember, this is an array, and local storage accepts only strings, so we need to say JSON.stringify my items. Okay, don't worry, we will just create that right away. So let me grab it, the very top of everything right here. This is for my local storage. So let's go back and try that right away. So if I inspect, if I hit item 1, and there you go. Now if I say item 2, and there you go. However, if I refresh the page, of course, my local storage is still there, but I'm not able to see it inside of my DOM. So let's display those elements inside of our DOM. So let's shrink back again, and we're going to use the window global object just at the very top right here. We need a way to load our local storage with the window global object. I mean window that listener, sorry, the event listener don't come to load it, and the function that I'm going to create is going to call set up items. So again, beneath of everything, so function set up items, this one right here, we need to follow this following. We need to say the following: console.log. We need to get, local storage that get item, and remember how we call it? Well, ls key, because this is storing a string name for our local storage, which is items. All right. So if I expand, inspect, console, reload, and this is our local storage. Great. Now, what happens if we delete all of them? All of them, clear, hit enter. Okay, we just delete our local storage, and now we are getting null. So now my local storage is null. But we need a way to grab those values from our JavaScript. Well, we need to create a new function here. So function, going to call it get ls, stands for get local storage, and here I'm going to return, and just of course my local storage, but it will depend of a conditional. Here I'm going to use the ternary operator. Basically, if local storage that get item ls key exists, if that exists, of course, please return that back to me. But in we're going to use JSON.parse because we need that object. Remember that local storage is in string type, and we need to parse that back into an object, and JavaScript object. So pretty much the same. Copy, paste. We need to parse this. Otherwise, please return just an empty array. Okay. Then above of everything, we need to remove these little items. We don't need that anymore. And let's go back inside of our add to ls. Right here we need to say the following: let items should be equals to get ls, because this is either returning my local storage, which is already an array, or just an empty array. After that we need to say the following right here. Okay, we need to say let items, items should be equals to get ls, again because it's returning either the local storage or the empty array. Therefore I can say the following: since this is an array, I can loop through them for each. So for each item, for my callback function right here, I can use this destructuring. So this is going to be item. Remember that my item is created by an ID and the value, so I can destructure this ID and the value. And for now, let's just console that log my value. So in order to show you that we are getting those items, but I know that initially it's empty, so submit, refresh, and we're getting those items, item 1 and item number 2. Now I would like to show those items inside of my DOM, of course. Now we need to go back right here inside of set items, and we need to call just create list, and we need to pass a text. That's it. But remember that when we are showing those list items, I need to show my clear button. Therefore, just right here, ClearBtn d-none class, and I'm able to see my clear items button as well. But of course, I want to show this piece of code only if I have items. Therefore, I'm going to use a conditional if items that length is more than 0, which stands for that I have something inside of my local storage. Please run the following code, of course. So going to grab this, and now let's just jump into the clear items function in order to add my local storage. So clear items right here, and you already see how to clear those local storage. So local storage that clear, this is the way that we can clear our local storage as well, to turn it completely empty. Now right away, let's inspect. If I refresh, we are still able to see them. Check. If I click clear items, they are all gone. Right, we need to work with the delete action now. So to start with, we need to go right here inside of create list. I need to pass the ID, then right here need to pass the ID as well. Now I need to save that ID inside of my list item, so I will apply a set attribute method, and this attribute going to call it data-id, and then the ID itself, which is already a string. Okay, now after that, inside of the delete, this one right here, I need to apply that ID for my local storage. So let ID should be equal to this parent element, which is the li, then data set that ID. That's the way that we can get access to that ID value. And after that, we'll create a function that is called remove from ls, and I'm going to set that ID. All right, after that I can go beneath everything and create that function, just function remove from ls. I'm passing the ID, then I need to get first my local storage, so get ls. This is an array or empty array, but I need to store it in a variable called variable. Then after that we'll say items that filter. So for each item, this is my callback function, item that ID should be different than my ID that I'm sending. But this is going to be an update for my items, my first items. Then I need to update my local storage or overwrite, which is basically the same. So local storage set item, and this one is going to be ls because that's my key. Remember, key value pairs. And again, I need to send string type. So JSON that stringify my items. After filtering all the values. So again, let's refresh just in case. Item number 1, item number 2. Within application, this is my local storage. Now if I hit here it's gone. Now again, it's gone. However, the local storage still exists, but without properties. Therefore, we need to go back inside of our remove from ls and say the following: if items that length is equal 0, which means that I don't have any items inside of my local storage, I want to destroy, so local storage that remove item, destroy, remove everything from my local storage, and I call it ls.key. So with that saying, let's give it a whirl this time, and if I hit remove here, this should go away, and there you go. Alright guys, we need to work with the edit function. I mean, right here in this conditional, this is for editing actions. So here we're going to use for in order to create edit ls to trigger that editing action, and edit ls is part of them to edit the local storage. This function is going to accept two parameters, first the value and then the edit ID. This one is going to be a global variable initially as undefined, because when you create a variable like that, it initially has the value of undefined. So after that, inside of right here, edit item, we need to get access to that edit. We need to make this edit ID global. How can we do that exactly? Well, this parent element that dataset.id. Why? Because my list item, when I create a new list item, I'm creating a new attribute for that list item that I just call data-id, and I'm pathing or saving the ID inside of my list item. So that's the way that we are making that edit ID global. Therefore, at the bottom right here, we need to create that function. The function edit ls is having two parameters, first the val and then edit ID. Okay, we're going to follow pretty much the same idea as we did here. So let me grab it, paste it, but however, instead of filter, this is going to be map, and this one is going to be a function. So, and then say if item.id is equals to the edit ID, because that's the current list item that I want to change. What? Well, the value, the text, to be the new current value that I have at the moment. Then please return the item. Why? Because remember, the item is actually an object, you know, this object that has two properties, ID and val. Okay, after that, yes, we are updating the local storage by saying this, we're using map, and do not forget to use your set back to default ID equals to undefined, set that back to default. Okay, now we can test it out. So within application, we have the local storage, and in number 1 we can check. All right, Albert, we can hit this one, we can change it. Let's see, edit, and there you go. If we can delete one, there you go. If we can delete all of them,
Nice.
thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you find this video useful in any way, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more.
Okay.
I am NeoDev, let's grow together, and see you on the next one.